speaker, and then at the end, we'll all be available for questions. So it's a real pleasure to introduce Dr. Russ Waitman, who's Director of our Medical Informatics, and he's going to tell you about some very cool things that are going on in the informatics part of Frontiers.
So I got some important questions first. How many of you are faculty? Wonderful. How many of you have ever had a fish tank or currently have a fish tank? How many people have visited an aquarium? How many people fish as a hobby? Okay, and then let me think. I have one other question. How many people spend time entering data into O2 or billing systems? Okay, all right, so I've got something for each of you. So let's see here. So if we had to sum up what we're trying to do for the CTSA is we've got some tools and expertise to manage data and convert it into information. So we've got two tools, RedCap and Chris, which help you enter and manage data. We've got Heron, which is this project to fish for data that's sitting in the hospital and clinic systems. And then the other thing as a take-home is we have a bi-weekly clinic in the library, Tuesdays from 4 to 5 p.m., and our next one will be on the 7th. Okay, so here basically is my metaphor. You're a fisherman. You're trying to land data to answer your research hypothesis. So has anybody ever been to Bennett Springs? Okay. If you go there, you'll be amazed how many fish there are. And so as a researcher, you want to get different types of data together. You want to know the diagnosis of the patient. You want background demographics. You want to know race and ethnicity. You want to know treatments, observations. So how did they get so many fish there? Well, somebody built a fishery 70, 80 years ago. So our medical informatics goal predominantly up to now has been building a hatchery, managing a fishery that's going to bring this type of information together. Okay, our secondary goal is as we grow the team, and if you need help fishing and you need a guide, we think we can offer up some guides. Okay, and then once you've got that data together, just like a great sushi chef, you know, bringing together the eel and the this and the that, biostats can help you prep and analyze your data. And all our shared goal is that great tasty publication that's consumed by research and clinical community. Okay, so people are with me so far. So your nightmare is you go somewhere, it looks like a nice river, but you can't catch anything. That happened to me this summer. It can happen in data. You know, you think I'll just put everything in Excel, but then you lose your spreadsheet, or some idiot sorts a column that throws everything off, or you got the data and you realize, oh, my IRB protocol said I could have students, but they can only have access to the de-identified data. Similarly, if you're in the hospital, you're saying, I am plugging in all this billing data, all this clinical data, and I don't get anything out. So we'll talk first about entering data, which is kind of like a fish tank that you're going to stock with your own fish. And so we have a tool called RedCap that was developed at Vanderbilt years ago that we have it installed here. It uses the same username and password you use for your KUMC email account, for example. If you're not a KUMC faculty or staff or student, you can apply through the Frontiers office to get an affiliate account, so you can use the system. Once you get in, it's got training videos online. And the two main things you do with this tool are you build data collection forms called case report forms in the lingo. And then you can also do surveys where you can send out email surveys to people or just have a link to collect data on survey forms. To let us keep track of what's going on, you know, you can actually play around with this, develop ideas, but when you're ready to move your project into production, or if you need a consultation on how to use the system, you can register a project with us at this site, and then someone on our team, likely Kalia, will get in touch with you. And you can also go to the main website for RedCap and get a feel for what other institutions are using it, and you may find that you can steal forms from them or find a collaborator. Okay, this is just a simple view of what a case report form would look like. This is for the Alzheimer's Disease Core Center that was funded this summer. And it's very complex to store all these standardized forms, and we're going to do that in RedCap. So it can handle pretty big databases. And then this is a simple survey. And again, think of, has anybody ever had a SurveyMonkey thing they filled out or done one? It's just kind of like that, except for the data's on a KUMC server that's watched by network security and has kind of HIPAA oversight parts. We have a second option called Chris, which is our implementation of a vendor called Velos. And if you're doing a prospective clinical trial, especially drugs, it's a better fit. You may need to capture specific adverse drug events and toxicities. That's not in REDCap, so you get that type of support. The team has a lot more experience supporting that system, and Biostats is heavily involved with validating your data and review and helping you with study design. So the REDCap model really works if you, the principal investigator, are responsible for your data. So Informatics is going to consult with you. It will maintain the technical integrity of the system, but it's your data dictionary. So the CTSA is underwriting our ability to provide consultation and support the environment, but you've got to feed and talk to your fish. There is a middle model, like Alzheimer's, where we can build it in REDCap for you as well. You'd budget for our team's time to build things. So REDCap, think of a fish tank. We're giving you the fish tank. We'll clean the filters out. We'll scrub down the glass. Every once in a while, we might put in a submarine or something there. You know, it's new features come out, but you've got to put the fish in and feed them. Okay? Think of Velos as visiting an aquarium. You can put fancier fish in there. We'll feed them for you, and Biostats might take them out and prepare a meal with you. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? So then, but you don't like, there are a fewer number of you who don't have a fish tank and haven't visited an aquarium, but you actually like fishing. So you want to go fishing, and the Heron Project is our attempt to create a managed fishery like this one in Oregon. So it's semi-wild fish. Salmon go out to the ocean, they come back in. Kind of like to us, the clinical systems are wild fish. You know, how do we get our arms around them? So to do that, we've named our project after the heron because KU has the bird as a mascot, the Jayhawk, and Dr. Atkinson likes birds. If you've seen the Buddy the Bird video that she put out on YouTube. So the first part of that, if you got a fishery, is you got to have a licensing process. So we had to work with the clinics and the hospitals to kind of come up with a consensus process of how we'd have oversight so that they would trust us to give them their data, which is a very important thing. And then we've implemented some software from Harvard called I2B2 that's essentially like a fishing rod. And then our team over time is going to keep working to help tag the fish so you know what you're catching, you know the information about the data, and then stock different types of data. So the main website you'd log into first is kind of the fishing license part. So you'd sign in again with your account. It'll do a check to see if you're faculty. It'll do a real-time check to check your current on human subjects training. So we've run into some glitches where the information resources systems may not know you're current, or you did expire. You didn't do your refresher quite right. Then you'll go in here to really start it off, but at times if you want to sponsor students or staff, you can sponsor students and staff. So that's essentially you saying, I will take responsibility for them fishing, and you can sponsor affiliates at other institutions. So as long as you're KUMC faculty, you can sponsor people at, say, Lawrence has happened already. There's really no limit, though, because the data you'll see initially, all this data is de-identified, so it doesn't go through IRB. You go through the oversight committee we've set up. You have to be on campus or use the virtual private network software from Information Resources. And we have a website which kind of tracks our activities. So this is kind of what the fishing rod looks like. All the different types of fish are organized in folders. So demographic information is in one folder, diagnoses in another. If I showed you more, we've got lab results, flow sheet data from nursing. And you pick them up and you drop them in the bucket in these panels. And the panels will and things together like a Venn diagram. So I pulled in who has had a diabetes mellitus diagnosis. Then I say, and as Dr. Barron mentioned, who is a participant in the research registry who might be interested in a trial. And then I'm going to drag in a third thing. I'm going to go into labs and get hemoglobin A1Cs to look at control. And I can say I'm interested in people who have a high hemoglobin A1C. Drag that in. So that'll automatically pop up if it's a numeric concept because it thinks maybe you want to set a range or constraint on that. Then you'll run your query. And so in this example I ran, I think earlier this week, there were 497 people who fit those criteria, and it calculated that in 4 seconds. And then you can take that set and you can look. This is kind of like catch and release fishing where you got to put the data back. It's living on the server, but you can see signatures for, when did they have a diabetes diagnosis assigned? When did they volunteer? What's their hemoglobin A1C? But then I can also add, well, is glucose being monitored, and do I have body mass index on these patients? So we share the dream with you of helping you land the big one, like Herman the Sturgeon here, and that would be the equivalent of the data to support a groundbreaking article, but we want to help you do that without getting bit. Any questions? Or later, right? We're taking questions later. All right.